James can be a loose cannon, but in terms of raw talent, there is no better driver in the world.
Who's that?
It's Niki Lauda.
He's just been signed by Ferrari.
Peter Morgan's a great writer.
Yeah.
Did The Last King of Scotland, The Queen, Frost Nixon, which we collaborated on, which was, you know, a lot of fun. And when I found out that he had discovered this very, very unusual, dynamic relationship story, this rivalry story, but set in the world of Formula One in the 70s, I just thought, man, this is kind of the trifecta. I mean, it's three fascinating elements.
I must admit, I didn't immediately think Ron Howard racing cars.
Well, no, I guess I probably wouldn't either if I looked at it that way.
Yeah.
But I do like sports. I'm fascinated by...
Apparently George Lucas, you...
Oh, George is a
Yeah.
huge Formula One fan, and he had actually introduced me to the sport at one point, and I liked it. So I knew enough to know how visceral and cool it was. I knew that you heard it and felt it in a kind of primal way in your chest before you even laid eyes on the car. These are all cinematic, you know, clues to me, and I just felt that maybe like the weightlessness in Apollo 13 or the fires in Backdraft or the boxing in Cinderella Man, maybe I could kind of, you know, get underneath this and try to understand some way to offer it to audiences.
Did Chris Hemsworth come to you as sort of a natural choice, or it was a little out of the box for you?
He was always on the short list because he
Yeah.
just looked a lot like James, you know, and Thor had already been a huge international hit. I didn't know whether he would have that other thing that James had. James was a very paradoxical guy, and there's a kind of a little bit of a raging bull, you know, aspect to him. This intensity, this kind of this black dog quality. I didn't know if he had that sort of experience yet as an artist. He made an audition tape and entirely proved it. Won the role.
Do you really think it upsets me, James? Calling me a rat? Because I look like one? I don't mind it.
And both he and Daniel Brühl proved to be very talented, very ambitious actors with you know, sensing that this was a great opportunity, and you know, they had the talent to try to rise to that.
I didn't know much about Formula One. My dad used to race motorbikes and had we rode motorbikes as kids and kind of, you know, I guess understood or had a familiar sort of, you know, experience to this world. But no, this was my introduction to Formula One, and it was all concentrated in the 70s. When Formula One was at its height of kind of glamour and glory and risk, and, you know, I mean, 4 or 5 guys a year were dying in the sport, and it was, you know, the odds were horrific. And but also the 70s, you know, when it was kind of, and James kind of embodied the, I think, the fun and sex and glamour of all of that put together.
I mean, obviously he's not with us anymore, so how did you learn about him?
A lot of, you know, reading the biographies that were around and speaking to people who knew him, then watching interviews. The most insightful stuff was we had this B-roll, you know, a bunch of footage and kind of outtakes of interviews and things, and the before and after of the interview. And when he was just kind of screwing around and making jokes and, you know, looking in the camera and couldn't sit still and just riffing away. And that was, you know, there was an ownership to his environment which was, you know, fascinating. He was like a big kid.
I have the track record here. I'm the only person in history to do the ring in under 7 minutes. So actually, it's to my advantage to race it today. Because I'm quicker than all of you.
He's a very blunt man and as undiplomatic as in the movie. So when he first called me, he said, yes, I guess we have to meet now. And I said, yeah, great. Just bring hand luggage to Vienna in case we don't like each other. You can piss off right away. And I thought, great. And I was nervous because, of course, I felt this weight on my shoulders and the responsibility of playing a living legend and such an icon as he is. And fortunately, he liked me. Took me about 5 minutes, and then I saw a smile on his face, and he realized of how enthusiastic I am. And of course, he was fond and proud of that project. And he was clever enough to know that the more support he gave me, the better his part and his character would come across in the movie. And then it made it so much easier because, you know, I got information from him that you can't get from anywhere else, you know.
And how good a driver are you?
I'm okay. Not that bad.
Not better now? After all that training?
No, more cautious because, yeah, it's easy to drive fast. You know, in Germany we don't have speed limits, so we love driving fast. But it is something different to drive a race car. And if something unpredictable happens, it's so tough to get these cars under control.
Let's race.